end of the session, I'll suggest what would be the next assignment. I sincerely expect and request all of you should complete the assignment. Actually, that is more important, and deliberately we are not kept mid-sem exam. So this is something, a practice we sincerely hope you should enjoy, and that would help you indirectly in deciding your own methodology of your own doctoral research topic. So here we go. A quick recap. In session 1, we had a general introduction, and mostly we try to understand ourselves, what should be done and how should we start if at all we are taking a research project. And today on this particular point, we'll be asking all of you, all of us, and that should form the basis for next assignment that is there in the last slide. And we suggested that we should try that the research should be interesting and the end result should be publishable. And in session 2, we just wanted to understand different types of research concept, and more particularly data concept, different types, definition, and briefly also we introduce scales. We had introduced the first 4 basic fundamental scales: nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio scale. And we checked with ourselves, just for clarification, if we have got a few questions in the questionnaire, are we using any scale or not? I hope you remember these are the points that we had discussed. And this type of short question may come in our practice test also. So N stands for nominal, O stands for ordinal, I stands for interval, and R stands for ratio scale. And in the last class, we had a brief discussion on types of data. We had primary versus secondary data. We had also classified quantitative versus categorical data. And we could also have some observation data, or we do experimentation, and the result will be our data. I think random data, purposive data, we have discussed with some examples. Anybody who by chance remembers what example we did give about purposive data? Any input from your side, please? Neha, would you mind helping us? Unmute yourself.
Sorry, sir, I was present. I went to take water. I was coughing.
Okay. Any other?
Was it something about the ice cream, going to a children's party versus an ice cream parlor, and then random data versus? I think Satish got that as one of the examples.
And I had one example like why girls do not feel safe traveling in metros after 10 p.m. And if you recall, we had suggested if we ourselves as a research investigator traveled in those metros after 10 p.m. and should we not take those who are perhaps traveling after 10 p.m. as our target population, should we take or not? If you remember, we had clarified, I think we should not do, and the purpose is something else, and we should be taking something else. You remember that, Kavita? We had suggested that?
Yes.
So this is what we had discussed in last class as example. I don't remember if we had also discussed about the classification of data into 2 broad classification as continuous versus discrete data types. Anybody who can please suggest with example what we understand by continuous data and discrete data. Divya, you're there? Mr. Sudarshan?
Good morning, sir.
Would you like to comment on the meaning classification with examples?
Yes.
Or yeah, please.
Primary data is the general.
No, last one. Continuous versus discrete.
Sorry, sir. I couldn't
Okay. Vanu, you are there? Are you in a mood?
Yes, sir, I'm there, but
Not in a
I
mood.
don't have clue on continuous and discrete.
Oh.
So can I try, sir?
Please, Ashwat.
Sir, discrete data is something that if you plot in a XY scale, probably there will be just 4 or 5 points that are there, but continuous will be a continuous line extending. For example, discrete would be the age of somebody's, the continuous would be length, the height or something like that.
Okay, he has tried. Yeah, Kavita.
I was thinking, supposing we are discussing the marks obtained by the students in a class, so then we will be plotting them. If we were to plot them, so it will be a continuous data, like somebody would be between 25 to 30, somebody would be 30 to 35, somebody 35 to 40. But if I were to ask about who got the highest marks and who got the lowest marks, so that would be one distinct point and one distinct point. That is discrete.
Okay. Any other suggestion?
Can I try?
Please.
Discrete data would be specific to the sample size. Like, for example, if you talk about number of fishes in an aquarium, can be a discrete data. Number of fruits in a basket would be a discrete data. But when you say continuous data, it's a very generic data point. Like, for example, you talk about height and weight of the demographic population or the age of that population will be a continuous data, is what I vaguely remember.
Okay, your answer is correct. All your answer suggestions are correct. Let me put it this way. Anupriya, please.
Sir, basically, continuous data is a numerical data and discrete data is a categorical data. So, for example, sir, continuous data like height of individuals is in continuous data.
No, dear. We should not define that way. But I think you started very well first. Let me put it like this. All of you remember, please carefully. We get data on variables. That term variable we had discussed in the last class, and I had suggested I, as a quantitative researcher, would be repeating the term variable most often. Sumita will be repeating the term concept, construct several times, maybe 1,000 times in her classes. I'll be using variable minimum 100 times. Suppose I'm collecting data on temperature. Temperature is the variable. We had defined briefly that varies is a variable. Okay. So what data we are collecting, it could be continuous, it could be discrete. So from one angle, we can classify into two ways, broadly, continuous or discrete. Very simple definition. If you observe data in fractional way, simple definition, not proper definition, is a continuous type. If you feel you will be getting only whole numbers, that is discrete. Say, number of students absent today. It cannot be fractional. It is a discrete type. If I study on absenteeism or number of family members, that is discrete. I think all of you, Kavita and others, have already correctly given example. Height, temperature, income, all those are examples of continuous variable. Okay, say case one, what we discussed in our last class, biting strength in session number 1. Biting strength, Divya, is what? Discrete or continuous, and why? Divya?
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir. So, discrete and or continuous. Sir,
Why?
it could be continuous.
Why you are using could be? It is continuous.
Yes, sir.
How
Because
we
it could
measured,
be
how we
it could be in
measured,
pointed. It could be in
how we
pointed
measured
form also.
biting strength in PSI, pound for square inch. So it could be 1000.50, whatever. So it is continuous data, okay, or it is continuous variable, okay. So variable can be classified into 2 ways: continuous variable, discrete variable. Same way, similarly, we can classify data into 2 ways: continuous data and discrete data. Okay. Say, for example, somebody was suggesting number of male, number of female in a class. It will be whole number. It's a discrete data. Okay. Please remember this. Right? Any other question, suggestion, advice? Satish, you wanted to say something?
No, one second. Sorry, I wanted to answer the same thing, but you already asked her. She answered. So, sir, I'm sorry. Today I have a doctor's appointment, so I'm driving there. So I will have to disconnect once I reach the clinic. So my apologies for the inconvenience.
Okay, thanks for sharing. Okay, moving forward.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
In the previous slide, there is one auto-generated data. Sir, is it similar to the secondary data?
No. It could be primary data also. Thanks for asking. It's a good question. I think we had discussed in the last class. Those who are there in the last class, can you please help us out if you by chance remember what we or how you define that? Maybe Kavita, can I trouble you, please? Any volunteer?
Sorry, I don't remember.
Okay, any other volunteer?
Sir, primary data generally, which are the data available in that particular area? If you use the
No. The question here is, what is auto-generated data? Is it always secondary data?
Yes. Auto-generated data is always secondary data.
Need not be, no. Okay.
Sir, sorry, the example was you said the stock of at a general store or department store at the end of the day is auto-generated.
Right. Good. Thank you for correctly remembering that. Say you got different sections or flows, okay, different categories of items that you sell in the departmental store. Okay. So end of the day, so how many units of which item, say toothpaste, toiletry, whatever it is sold, is it again manually counted, or through the bills that you might have generated, automatically it is generated, say toothpaste, 157 tubes you have sold. Okay, this soap you might have sold. That consolidated report is automatically generated. I'll get back to you, Priyanka. Allow me to give one more example. In every office, every college these days, you have got biometric machine. Okay, even for our KIIT University, every class, we have got biometric machines. As students enter, they use biometric machine. Okay, so when student enters, that is captured. So I think many of you are from HR department and senior executives from HR. You must be knowing that as we have the thumb impression, is it that only one data is entered or several other things are captured? Is it not my employee ID? Is it not the timing which is auto-generated by the clock and automatically my name, my designation, it is captured? Okay. Say, for example, you have got different departments, right? So I think Satish was suggesting for us, if I remember, he was giving one example, who joined office after 20 minutes, delayed by 20 minutes. Okay.
Right.
So if you remember this, so as and when employees enter, use biometric machine, so the information is captured. Okay. Now, do you not have some auto generation report who have joined like this, or after 10 p.m. or 10 a.m. or like this? So those data, Sudarshan Babu, is primary data or secondary data? You are there attending to my class attentively? No. I'm missing you, Sudarshan. Is that, what is the example, Neha? Are you participating? I think something wrong today. Most of you are not participating well.
So those are primary data.
Neha, like you, I'm also suffering. I just had recovered from COVID also. Okay, we need to attend also again. What are the example? Why you are giving this example?
Sir, those are primary data.
Which one primary data?
We are collect the biometric which we collect.
That is primary. After all employees have entered, there is a report generated, submitted to HR department. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So that is secondary or primary?
Sir, that is secondary.
How it is
As
secondary?
the report, sir,
it is not published.
So that primary. Yes,
that
yes,
is
sir,
also
that is not
primary.
published.
So it could be
Yes.
primary. So
reported,
who had
collected,
asked the meaning of reported data? Somebody had asked me the question, no? Priyanka, over to you. You have a point or question or suggestion?
No, so I just had a question. I'm still a bit confused about continuous and discrete data. So you said discrete is whole, continuous could be in decimals.
Fractional,
is that how I should read it?
fractional.
Okay, that's the okay. Fine, that's clear.
Is it answer? Okay, you can remove your hand symbol. Okay. Can we move? Okay, so today is again on the same continuation of scales for measurement, and we'll be trying to give examples. Here we are. We'll be discussing two good articles, and the purpose I'll be discussing later. One is what I had asked about the article by Anne Gregory, and this is basically on a research on gender stereotyping. And here, this is something about theory building, and it talks about the beauty of methodology or the challenge of methodology. And the other article which we had indirectly briefly discussed about the conjugal happiness, where we had perhaps discussed about the challenge of measurement. And when you are measuring happiness, you indirectly meant the mutual happiness versus individual happiness. So this is what you should view the challenge of measuring a construct, a concept like happiness. How do you do this, and what should be the methodology? So over to you. Can you please start some discussion what you have understood about this article by Anne Gregory? If you don't mind, Priyanka, can you please start, take the lead, and others should volunteer.
Right, like I said, I had a very quick read, so difficult to say I've got whole of it, but my observations were that the article clearly brings out how there's a stereotyping, sir, right? So for example, some of the characteristics of a role are synonymous to male characteristics, and there's a bit of an expectation on women to fit in, right? So, and that was one of my observations. The other was really about how women have to go the extra mile to prove their contribution to a role versus men in the same jobs. And even if it's the same age, qualification, and competencies, even then it was evident that there was a difference between how men and women were treated in the same job. So multiple aspects that brought out how there's a gender stereotyping, there's gender bias amongst how men and women as candidates for a same role are considered. So I think I'll pause here and I think I'll reflect a bit more and come in.
Let's go slow. Let's go slow. This is very important. Let us try to understand. Anupriya, hold on. My point here is who can explain what is the meaning of gender stereotyping in the context of this article, what the authors have done. I think Kavita can do justice if you take the lead, Kavita, then followed by Anupriya. Let us try to discuss, understand, explain to our friends, colleagues, what is studied about the gender stereotyping within double quote.
Okay. Here, as per the article, because otherwise in general life, there are a lot of ladies out here, we all know that we may be having some capabilities, but it is always pitched against what the men, our men counterparts have, and then we are compared against them. But this article says they have studied women in 3 different aspects. One is the person-centered, another is organization-centered, and another is the third one is the gender-based. And they are considering 4 personality traits which are usually measured. So they are dominance, responsibility, achievement, and self-assurance. So based on this is what they are doing their calculation as to they are measuring. So there is a power outrage in my place which is happening pretty often. So sometimes I may have become dark screen. So this is what I feel they are trying to measure: dominance, responsibility, achievement, and self-assurance. I guess these are the reasons.
Anybody would like to supplement, add? Anupriya.
Yes, sir. Moreover, sir, there is a concept there that is traditionally the women were placed at the lower levels, and men also tried to place women at lower levels of an organizational hierarchy. So they don't.
Let's go slow. Does the article telling us that women are placed at lower level, Priyanka?
No, so my understanding was that they're saying it's less evident, this whole gender stereotype at the lower levels, and more evident at the higher levels is how I read it.
I think, Anupriya, they have got like some bias, what Priyanka started very well. It's not the rank kind of thing, different kind of role. It is perceived that women cannot do. Say, for example, night patrolling. Say, for example, KIIT University. We have got night patrolling. So usually we feel it is not given to ladies. Say, for example, Air Force pilots. Okay, it is usually it's a male domain. It's like misconception or bias, whatever. So in army, okay, there are a lot of things. So it's not we're talking of the rank, but different activities, functional roles. Okay, maybe I don't know. You can also counter me. Anupriya, over to you.
Yes, that I thought that placing women at a lower rank maybe is gender stereotyping, because they thought women cannot do as much practical decisions like men, and they thought sort of women are like emotionally emotional. They will prefer emotional side as compared to men, and then they will not take practical decisions like men do. So that's what I think, that the gender stereotyping in this article.
Those who have read at least something on the article, please raise your hand, volunteer. All of you should participate, or else like it is again a +2 class or a max a graduation class, not a PG or PhD class. Divya.
Sir, what I understood is that by gender stereotyping, the article wanted to say whether the woman has the traits that that is needed for getting the higher status occupation, because they think that those traits that are needed to to get the highest status occupation is carried by only male counterparts, and whether it is available in the women or not. That is what I understood by the stereotype, gender stereotype.
Anybody who can mention either any mention like how it can be controlled? Is there any mention?
One
How
more point.
yeah, please.
One more point which comes forth is they are saying managers have certain kind of traits. So whether it is a man or a woman at the managerial level, when they go, then they exhibit certain masculine characteristics, and which is dominance and need for achievement, more self-confidence. So here at one level, these characteristics are attributed more to men. So after you reach a certain level, even if you are a woman, since you exhibit these characteristics, so there is another type of stereotyping that these characteristics belong to men. So these are masculine traits.
Has by chance Sumita covered or touched upon, define, explain the meaning, definition of concept, construct, or she has not covered?
She has.
Kavita?
She has.
Yes, she is
Okay,
still
okay.
doing.
Okay. So the leadership is what? Kavita?
That's a concept.
Okay. Now, can it be operationalized? Can it be measured?
Yes, there
How?
will be qualitative as to how many times you take lead.
You have already explained. Refer to the article. Anybody by chance remembers how it is defined? Yeah, please, Divya.
So yeah, by leadership here it is written that whether the women are more supportive, and as we progressed, we realized that the supportive nature of the leader is more needed for a longer run. So that quality is possessed by the women, but still some of the articles says that there are the persuasive nature is also needed, which is in the masculine, in the male counterparts. So in these two contexts, they have compared this. The
No,
leadership.
actually, I am viewing this article. This article will be repeated by me and Sumita repeatedly. I am just asking you to please feel some concept construct. How do we operationalize it, and how do we measure it, and what are the scales we may have to use it? So that is the purpose here. Say, for example, now if there is a bias, say the leadership attribute quality of men vis-a-vis women, we should measure and compare and see there is no difference. If women are given equal chance, they may do well or may equally efficient. Okay, so how do we prove it? So we have to measure it. Okay, to measure it, how do we operationalize it? Let me give one small example. I think Basanti and Sudarshan would be interested. Say, for example, in your rural management research, poverty is often research concept construct. How do we measure poverty? Is poverty?
Sir, based.
Yes,
sir.
Basanti.
Sir, based upon the income scale, what they are incoming
Now,
from
how
which
do we
sources?
relate, Kavita, poverty and income? Income, what came from Basanti? I'm asking Kavita, what is poverty? What is income?
The poverty is the concept and income is the
Very
concept.
good, all of you listen to Kavita, all of you. We will be giving lot of examples so that you find your concept construct in your topic. And a construct can be defined through several variables, operational variables. Income is one. Per capita income, what you can say. Okay. Something else can you add, Vasanti? Is it the only income or anything else?
Sir, depending upon the land holdings they have.
How do you find those terms, factors, variables? What is the usual approach? Senior scholars? Any guess, Divya? How do we get those terms, factors, variables? Are dear, guess to kar.
Sir, through observation.
You will be observing the sky or going to Nandankanan. Neha, you need to participate. Your participation is not satisfactory.
Sir,
Have you heard of a term literature review? That is area of Sumita. She will be asking you several times. So this income, who has defined? Okay.
On income
you
classification.
You have to code this color's name. Okay. Somebody might have given. Say, for example, poverty index, corruption index. It must have been given by somebody who have to name and give credit to the person. Okay. So when I'm asking how do we get the ideas, factors, it's from the literature. You cannot think yourself. Okay. If you're adding to literature, that is your contribution. Sudarshan, you wanted to say something.
Last class we have discussed a lot of variables, variables and scales for measurement. And the poverty and all the things can be measured at the ratio scale or it may be interval scale or ratio scale. You can measure all the things.
Okay. Priyanka, sorry, because you are actively participating, so I'm troubling you more. Can you repeat the question of Sudarshan for the benefit of others? He had a good question.
I was writing my notes, so I did not hear. So I was looking at the concept is poverty and
writing means not to listen to others. Okay.
Sorry, sir.
Divya, what is the question? Poverty,
Sir,
should we use scale, ratio, interval, or ordinal, nominal? That was the question. What should be the answer, Kavita?
Sir, I think that it will be nominal.
Are dear, we are just now discussing poverty is not directly measured. Sudarshan Babu.
Sir.
We have to have indicators. We have to have operational variables. So
Correct.
you first decide how we are going to measure poverty.
There has to be a baseline reference to that, right?
Yeah, there could be ratio scale.
So it should be ratio scale.
For what? Is it for poverty?
So say supposing we have a what is that in poverty line? We have a poverty line.
No. Basanti told income. Income is a variable we are using to measure poverty, right? We agreed that. So income is one of the variables for concept called poverty. So we are not directly measuring poverty using scale for poverty. We are using or measuring indirectly through its set of operational variables. So first you tell what are your operational variables. So those variables are used to measure in turn poverty. So scales will come only when you decide your indicators, only when you decide which we call operational variables. Please remember this. Now here, I'll be damn happy. Is there any mention of some operational variables, how something is measured? One construct is measured through different operational variables. Over to Kavita. If you refer to this Anne Gregory paper. Anybody?
I just wanted to confirm that poverty is to be measured as a ratio scale.
No, again, let me clarify. Poverty, we are not using ratio scale for poverty. Poverty is a generic term which we are taking as a construct. That construct we are breaking off. We want to measure that through different components called operational variables. We assign scale, we decide scale, we choose a scale for the variables. Okay, suppose poverty is measured through 5 indicators, 5 variables. One is income. It's not income, say willingness to spend. Suppose I have money, but in my mind I'm very poor. I'm not spending money on health of my kids. Suppose somebody is defining that way. I'm not like purchasing nutritious food items for my family. So when you look to the consumption, I'm very poor. Maybe I have got 1 kg of gold, but I don't have like minimum facility at my home. So if you define that way, so you refer to different literature, how it has been revisited, how it has been measured by different scholars. Scholar number 1 might have used 3 variables. Scholar number 2 might have used 5 variables. So you come to a conclusion, what is robust, what you decide, how you want to use it, how you want to measure it. Okay.
So depending on the variable, we will decide the scale.
Yes. And those variables I'm going to discuss. Please remember, again, Kavita, don't forget, please do ask me. If you are selecting the best possible variables, is it giving you the best possible result? What is the meaning of best possible result? That is called validity and reliability. That 2 terms we'll be discussing, kind of thing. Suppose nowadays we all are suffering to degree may vary from a virus called Omicron or COVID, maybe like a degree varies. Suppose there is one symptom called say temperature. How do we measure temperature? Do we every time use thermometer in a house, or we just touch our palm onto our body and feel okay, maybe like he or she is having temperature? Do you do that? So when you're using a palm or hand, is it not one instrument? Is it not a means of measuring this? Now, how efficient is this to know whether somebody is suffering from fever or not? Okay, that we are going to discuss. Just hold on for 15 minutes. Then we'll, don't forget this question, Kavita. Please do ask me after 15 minutes. I'm sorry that only a few of you have read selectively a few portions of the article. The discussion on the article is inconclusive. I expect we'll be repeating it once again. I think, let me go back to my slide, because we have to stop after 30-40 minutes. Satish, can you mute yourself, please? I'm muting you. Okay, this is what I think the article, you should read it again. I think Sumita will also be asking you. Now, the important points you should have highlighted. One is gender stereotyping and the impact of gender stereotyping that you should have gone through. And measuring conjugal happiness, I will not repeat here. We have discussed here. And my purpose of suggesting that we have to identify operational variables, which we'll be calling research variables, on which we'll be collecting that. So every research, as you recall the essence or the summary of last class, we need data for our research. Actually, we need data for our research variables. Once you find your concept construct, then you define your variables, you quantify it, and you have to measure or collect by using appropriate scales. Okay. Now, the definition of measurement is very simple. You are assigning some values. Measurement means what? You are assigning some numbers based on a set of guidelines. Data can be of 2 types. One is metric data, which is comprised of the higher scales, interval scale and ratio scales, and non-metric data, which is usually nominal scale or at the best ordinal scale. Please remember this. So metric data, solid quantitative values, are interval and ratio scale data. Please remember this. Now let's have a quick recap. Nominal scale and ordinal scale. I think all of us are perhaps very clear about the nominal scale. I don't know if all of us are very clear about the distinction between ordinal and interval. I would be troubling you once again. If some of you can please distinguish between ordinal vis-a-vis interval scale. Anupriya, can you give a try, please? Anupriya, followed by Divya.
Yes, sir. Sir, nominal scales basically we use to
Difference between ordinal versus interval.
Ordinal. So ordinal is basically we judge the characteristics on the basis of preferences and orders. We categorize that on that way. And interval scale is more about the differences, the giving an higher value and lower value. That is the interval scale, and ordinal scale is preferences basis. Sir.
No, it's not satisfactory answer. Divya, give it a try.
Sir, in
distinction between
the distinction, I will say that in ordinal scale, in interval scale between the two variables, when you rank it, the difference is equal. Because
not two variables, range, limit.
Ordinal scale, we should put in the order. Suppose we are measuring some height of the students, and then we'll make them the top height between the first, second, third, like that. But in the internal scale, we'll make them which are the lower groups and which are the higher groups. We just differentiate between the higher in one type and the lower in the one type.
Suppose your RM. Divya, don't forget your answer. You can answer. Just give me 1 second.
Can I attempt, sir?
One second. Just give me just half a minute. Suppose RM NSEM exam final result is declared. All your marks are given. Are we using any scale there in the marks? What type of scale we are using? Example not appreciated?
Yes,
ordinal?
Interval scale.
Not ordinal, Priyanka. Why you confused about ordinal?
I thought the marks will
be out of what?
100.
100. So can it go beyond 100? So there is a cap limit. What is the minimum value? 0.
0.
So when you have got some values within two limit, lower limit, upper limit, and it
also
could be anything. Yeah, Satish.
Sir, also there is some meaning between the gaps, so which we interpret in terms of percentage difference, CGPA. So the data in gaps are can be analyzed meaningfully. That's why it is interval.
Professor, let me attempt here, taking the cue from your example.
Please.
If your nominal scale is the scaling from 0 to 100, this is the marks scored by the students.
No. Nominal scale is not that.
Ordinal scale will be when you rank it top to bottom, and interval will be people between 80 to 100, 60 to 80, 50 to 80 will be the interval scale.
Your definition for ordinal is correct. I think last two, not that confident suggestion. Divya, you wanted to say something. Sorry,
okay, fine.
So I wanted to say the same thing that Satish has suggested, that in interval scale, if students are getting if you are taking the students' score, you are using a common scale. You are judging them on the basis of a common scale. So the gap between like CGPA, but the common scale is missing in ordinal scale.
Please remember, in interval scale, different persons can have any value within this range.
Yeah, so that's what I was talking about, Professor. 80 to 100 is one bucket. 60 to 80 can be another bucket.
I think if I remember, you suggested number of persons getting 80 to 100. I think you told that.
We bucket that and we see how many people are there in that.
No,
so bucketing is basically interval.
No, when you are using how many people, it's again a number.
Okay.
Different marks in that range. Let us tell that. Different marks we may get within that range.
Sir, what about temperature? Suppose we are measuring in a scale, and the degree of difference between, let's say, 80 to 90 is same as the degree of difference between 90 to 100.
No, temperature should not be put. Temperature should not be put theoretically as interval scale. It should be used as a ratio scale, because, say, for example, theoretical speaking, what could be the very highest temperature in a day in say Bhubaneswar, Satish, at Bhubaneswar? Can you limit it to like 40 degree? Can you limit it to 41 degree? Can it not exceed 45?
No, theoretically cannot.
So when we are not thinking of putting a cap, if we are not thinking of something within a limit, so that is not interval. Let's put it freely to ratio scale. Okay. Now that's why you are suggesting, say for example, CGPA marks 0 to 100 and the like should come under interval scale. Now I ask, what is the difference between ordinal versus interval? Ordinal, you have got different orders continuously, 1, 2, 3, 4 rank kind of thing. Okay.
So it is sequential.
Sequential. Very good. In interval, maybe like say you are 20 of you and all of you may be getting marks between 85 to 87, all of you. Okay.
So
We
0
don't
to
have
100
any,
itself can be an interval scale.
sorry, come again.
So 0 to 100 can itself be a interval scale because it is between 0 and 100.
Yes, yes.
There is a
Interval scale.
lower and upper limit.
Yes, yes. It is interval scale.
So it need not be that it has to be further broken into 80 to 100 or 60 to 80. Then I don't think that is when it
No,
becomes.
we are not going for any further breakup. I think somebody suggested the marks between 80 to 100. I think it's not from me. One of you suggested. So no issue.
That I agree. But conceptually, 0 to conceptually marks itself is an interval scale because there's a lower and upper limit.
Yes. But we can also have subset within that. No problem.
No, subset
Say for
is there,
example,
but I'm saying
say for example, Priyanka is the recruiter. She is visiting School of Management, right? She would be putting a condition, students having scores within CGPA this to this. Okay, maybe like 7 to 10. So it is what the interval. For her, 7 is the lowest mark. Below that, no one is eligible to appear for the GDPI. Okay, so that way you can think of also. Am I correct, Banu?
Right, sir.
Okay, okay. So the high scale.
लगता था आपको पैसा देता था क्या है?
Yes, please again. Satish.
Satish needs to go on mute, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, sir. I think it accidentally unmuted.
Okay, moving forward. Now we have discussed only the fundamental scales. Okay. Now we'll be going for some hybrid scales and different varieties of scale today that we'll be discussing briefly. And this I'll be recording and I'll be sharing with you. This could be a possible short questions also. Now, one could be, we can classify scales into two broad classifications. One is forced choice scale versus non-forced choice scales. So for example, a standard product, maybe like a high-end car, when you are taking your car for servicing, it is expected that the service is really very good. Okay, though they have got a rating of 0 to 10, it is expected that mostly nobody gives below 5. They take utmost care that the customer is happy. Do you agree with me that when you take your car to, if it is a good high-end car, so they really take utmost care and they'll be doing the duty meticulously, and like there could be some scope for improvement. So if you want to find what is there, what is the scope for improvement, should we not concentrate on the upper half? Say for example, you don't find any response between 0 to 5. All your responses are within 6 to 10. Okay, can we not magnify extend the higher portion so that we find where we are missing. Okay, so if you put it like a non-forced, then it may not solve a purpose. Okay, so for example, sometimes you ask which is, if it is asked which is better, forced choice scale or non-forced choice scale, the answer would be it depends. Now, if it is something, it has to be non-forced. Say, for example, how good, how bad is a political party? So you keep it like, say, in the middle, neutral, and 50% in the negative side, 50% in the positive side, and make it like a non-forced. But you feel that a particular thing is really good, and within the good, how good it is, so better not to have the negative side. Is anybody getting me? So sometimes we have to have some forced choice scale also to get better responses. And balance scale I have already explained. So you have got equal number of positive and equal number of negative side, favorable and non-favorable response choices. So this way we have to think of, depending upon our survey, should we go for a balance scale? Should we have got a forced choice scale or non-forced choice scale? So this is how is a broad classification. We'll be slowly discussing one by one. The scales are broadly classified into two broad categories. One is comparative scale, where you can compare quantitatively from one from the other, and the other it's difficult to compare. Among the comparative scale, these are the classification. Let us go one by one. So this table will help you remembering the different type of scales we use in our surveys. Now, as I was telling, broadly, we have either comparative scale or non-comparative scale. Under comparative scale, we have either paired comparison, where we have got only two things to be compared, and rank order, where we have got more than two. Another is constant sum, another is KSoM. Let me explain, give me 2-3 minutes, then you can ask me. Kavita, 1 minute. Now, moving to the details of comparative scale, first one is paired comparison. Now, when we have the need of contrasting and comparing two competing brands, say, for example, Times of India versus Indian Express. Okay, put it in two columns. Say, for example, current news. Who is good, who is better? Okay, sports feature. Who is good, who is better? Okay, and political news. Who is good, who is better? So, if you are comparing two competing brands on several attributes, so that type of comparison survey, we put it under paired comparison scale. Next is rank order scale. When you have got so many brands, okay, and you compare which brand is better on a particular attribute. Say, for example, you got toothpaste. You got, say, 10, 20 type of toothpaste. But when you are comparing one attribute, the mouth freshening effect of those toothpaste, and you ask the consumers, customers to put them in ordinal scale. Okay, maybe like close-up, you put it as the most preferred when I think of mouth freshening effect, and what is the next, what is the next, what is the next. So that is called a rank order scale. Is it something to the last thing that you wanted to ask, Kavita, or it is indirectly being covered? You had a query, I think.
So I had a different question.
Sorry?
Sir, I had a different question. And
okay, would you like to ask now?
Sir, no, you take this because we'll have to go back a few slides back and then I.
Anupriya, you have got any point question?
I have a doubt, sir.
Yeah, please.
Sir, as you said in paired comparisons, like you gave an example of Times of India and the another newspaper, the Express. Are we making the comparison at the same time in a paired comparison scale? And in rank?
Same time.
So because why I asked this, in ranking order, you said we are comparing on one attribute. So does that one attribute is making we are comparing among several brands on one attribute, and in paired comparison we are comparing two things. So basically, in
two brands, several attributes.
Two brands, several attributes we are comparing in paired comparison, and in rank order only on one attribute. So
one attribute, several brands.
Okay, sir. Now I got it, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Moving forward. Yeah, please, Neha, please.
Sir, in paired comparison, it is written that can be extended to many brands on single attribute.
Can be extended also, no problem. Can be extended.
So as in rank order, we measure regarding the we measure on the basis of single attribute. That is same as
Suppose. I'm sorry for taking a regional example. Those who are not from Odisha. Neha, can you just name the top 3 Odia newspapers of like these days? Top 3.
Samaj.
Then Sambad.
Sambad. Dharitri, Pramay.
Okay. Suppose let's take top 3 Odia newspapers. Okay. Can you not compare not 2 but 3 brands? You're asking, yes. Can it be extended to more than 2 brands on different attributes? Okay, how apolitical one paper is, how much coverage it gives on sports, how much coverage it gives on international news. Okay, question is 1, brands are 3. Am I answering your query?
Yes, sir.
So different attributes, you can also extend that. Okay. But here you have to have different attributes in first one. Second one, you have to have only one attributes, several brands. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Sir,
moving forward. Yeah, Vanu.
Sir, one thing, in paired comparison scale, can you take more than 2?
Sorry, come again.
Sir, in pair comparison scale, you're taking mostly 2 brands. Can you take more than 2?
That's what I just suggested, Neha, 3 newspapers.
Yeah.
Okay. Just now we discussed that. Sure. Okay. Now, the third one, all of you please note carefully. Please note. This is called constant sum scale. So if you sum up the weightage, it should add up to some fixed constant number. Okay. Suppose you are rating different brands on different attributes, and hope you will agree all attributes will not be equally important. Suppose price, it could be more important for some consumers. Okay, life, it could be relatively less. Suppose when you are purchasing a mobile, price factor, life of battery factor, there are so many attributes. Okay, those attributes may not be of equally important. So if you find varying importance of attributes are considered by assigning different weights. Say for example, why a consumer or a customer purchases a detergent cake or detergent soap. Some of the attributes which might come to our mind, the dirt removal efficiency of that soap. Second, the fabric care, the care the soap will take off our clothes. Price factor, smell factor, foaming factor. Okay. Suppose I have put 4 attributes here. What are the 4 attributes, Neha?
Dirt removal, smell, foam, care.
So, if we take a survey and feel that the most important is how effective it is in removing dirt, okay, and I assign 40% weight, 0.4, okay, and care 20%, price 20%, smell factor 10%, form factor 10%, and it adds up to 100%. Okay, 100% or 1 if you add the fractions. Is that okay? So you put different attributes and ask them how do they rate it. So you can also think of devising a technique of constant sum scale. The next one is KSoM, which is usually applied in rural management research. When they move to villages and they want to group on similarity different objects, mostly say the perception, practice, and beliefs of villagers on different gods, suppose, or maybe like religion, okay? So if you group them into 2, 3, 4 groups and you sort them quickly, we call it KSoM or quick sort. Sorting means categorizing, putting into different categories, okay? So this is usually mostly done, or some of not much done in management research, but sometimes done in rural management research. Now moving to the next category, let's start with one of the non-comparative scale. Satish, yes, please.
Since you said rural management research specifically, just wanted to understand the reason behind it. Is it because of unavailability of sufficient number of structured data pertaining to the rural management area, or why is this used only in this area of research more than the others?
No, I never said only used, mostly used, I used. You can also think of using in our research also, no issue. When we have a need of quickly grouping into different categories, suppose I feel belief, faith, say political following, all this, okay? If you find that there would be inter-group variation, so better to go for a grouping first, then study. So the when you find intra-group variation will be less, in those cases, it's better to make groups. Say, for example, I gave example of rural management. How do they use like cleaning of hands? Okay. So sometimes you find some herbs they use. Sometimes some rural folks use soil, and you make a different category, and you have to have some intervention plan. Suppose you want to educate them how to use say hand sanitizer or something like this. How effective is this? Those who were using soil to clean hand, how adaptive, how fast they are changing themselves. Those who were using some herbs, how fast they are adapting. So that changes, if you notice, that actually makes better sense. Am I indirectly answering you to some extent, Satish?
Not to a large extent, sir. So whenever, I understood. Thank you.
Yeah. So coming to some of the cases where you cannot definitely put some scores, say for example, some semi-literate persons, okay? Now, where they are finding difficulty in putting, say out of 10 scale, how much they give. Is it something like a 3, 5, 7? Sometimes you find that I'm not getting a sufficient example, but if you assign, is it here, is it here, is it here? Suppose particularly those who are less literate. Now, how effective is a particular treatment in rural concept again? How effective is? Someone says, no, it is like this, no, up to this. Suppose somebody putting a tick mark here, so more confident. So it is something like a graphic rating scale. You help the less informed respondent to tell his or her response how close this, particularly in rural parlance, somebody, I think Sudarshan can help me out, say Solana, out of Solana, like, yes, bar and night is correct. Okay. Sometimes say roughly they respond particularly on a particular question. So this is not perfectly comparative. We'll be calling it non-comparative. And if you put a graphical this and you ask the respondents to put whether it is here, his or her response here or close to 10. So this way we just define as a continuous rating scale. And one of the most favorite scale is Likert scale, which is given by Rensis Likert. This is a 5-point scale starting from strongly agree, disagree like this, and we measure the choice. And this is further extended to another scale, 7-point scale, which we'll be again discussing a bit later, which is called Semantic Differential Scale. This is actually a study of bipolar adjectives. Say, for example, once Tata's take over Air India, how do you feel? What transformation it might go through in the hospitality? Is very, very warm or least like that. So if you have a 7-point scale, it will be perhaps capturing more minutely than the 5-point scale. More the scale, I think you have more scope to quantify. Another is a 10-point scale, which is called Staple scale. And this is given by Jan Staple. And usually this is no neutral point. Okay, please remember the uniqueness here is either negative or positive, no neutral scale. This is what he has suggested. Just note it down. 5 on negative side, 5 on positive side. Suppose, for example, we are asking how much you agree that Big Bazaar price is best of its kind so far as the competitive price is concerned. So one can give 5-point scale, strongly agree to strongly disagree, or you can also put it is in a 10-point scale like this. Okay, so Likert scale, I think you know better. Let me skip this. Mostly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, starting from strongly agree to strongly disagree, or in the other reverse order. I think Victoria scale, I can skip this one. Yes, semantic scale, please note, like you got 7-point scale. Suppose on a newspaper, these are the attributes. Is it giving us news very contemporary or old-fashioned it looks like? So strongly agree to strongly disagree. You can put circle here it. So these are the different attributes and how you ask the respondents to respond. Okay, any question up to this? I think some of you wanted to ask Kavita or I think.
Sir,
one by one, Satish.
I have a
so
question.
no, sir, my question was only out of curiosity. The Rensis Likert scale that you showed, is it same by Likert who made the management theory of the 4 types of leaders: exploitative, authoritarian, benevolent, autocratic, participative, consultative?
Is it so? Sorry, I don't have answer. I think you have
okay,
to.
Okay, no problem,
that.
sir. I'll find out. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Professor, if you can move to the previous slide and the first one, when we started explaining the scales, the previous one, please. One, we're defining that rural scale, the rural scale, please.
Okay. Did you been here?
I'm sorry you have to flip through so many slides.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I have minimized. Just tell me, should I move to the next slide? Is it visible?
Yeah, slide number 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question out here. So the scale 1 to 10 is given to the rural folks, people who can't really quantify to give their response. Fine. But from a researcher point of view, I should be having an internal scaling, right? To compare where this arrow mark really points to. So we are looking, this scale is from a user perspective or the respondent perspective. Right, because they are not educated, they can put an arrow mark where they want. But there has to be some backward mapping to understand where this arrow really points to. Else, as a researcher, how will I pinpoint on the score? I'm not sure whether I understood the scale or my question is understood.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I think luckily we have got a couple of friends from rural management. Sudarshan or Basanti, have you got the question correctly? Can you just tell the question part? Basanti?
Yes, sir. Sir, I think from our point of understanding, from a researcher point of view, we need to post something between the value. For example, sir, if we want to collect the annual income, they cannot say that what is exactly our annual income. Like, we are doing the job, so we say that our annual income is this lakhs to this lakhs, but they cannot quantify their annual income.
I think annual income may not be a good example. Can you give a better example where there is no clarity?
Sir, okay, sir, they are saying how when we ask them that kahan tak pade ho, so they're 5, like that, 5, 6, like that, they are saying like that.
No,
sir,
there also
yes,
we
sir.
cannot give.
Sir, this question can be used where there is a lot of comparison. Suppose we'll ask some of the people, for some things, 5 to 10%, 10 people may agree, as some people may not agree. For us, this stable scale, maybe it is strongly positive and strongly negative type of answers.
Sir, another thing we can ask them that how many times you are taking the nutritional value, like how many times you are eating meat or plant protein. They might say 2 times or maybe 1 time. That is how we need to
No, that is the number.
out.
No, that is the number. No, just you note down the number, you average it out so that you get a decent information. Okay. Suppose you got 50 villagers for responses that you have recorded. So a fairly good average value you can get. Any other example?
So can I question, like, is the present government doing a good job for the village?
Yes, that kind of where like something hazy, something not concrete answer. Say Biju Swasthya Kalyan Yojana, whatever. Okay, so how effective it is, or
MGNRGS
so where you do not have numbers can vary. That's not the issue, but how effective one is, that kind of question. If you just say, for example, you explain. I think in Hindi or Odia, you put it like a Solana effective or Charana effective, like this you put it. Roughly, okay, 50-50 like this. So you have some fair sense of response. What I personally believe, it is something better than nothing. So how happy villagers are when you are giving Kisan card. So when the Babus implement some schemes from metros, from capitals, without understanding whether it is used, appreciated, understood by the users or not. So if it is meant for less educated rural folks, how effective it is. Suppose you give some smartphones to know agriculture information, whether they are able to use it or not, how user friendly your mobile technology is, so that you want to study all those things. Okay, so some of the questions where definite numbers may not come, so there, if you feel, you have to have some feelings quantitatively, graphically measured, captured. In those cases, perhaps you can use of continuous rating or graphic rating scale. Okay, any other point, Satish?
Sir,
Yeah.
yeah, sir. For example, if we ask the question to the rural people that from how many sources you are getting the information regarding agriculture or regarding the sorry, regarding how my hand holding support, they may say that from agriculture department, from horticulture department, from Krushak
No, that will be
from any other
Basanti.
example.
Basanti, again, you are going to objective questions, objective answers. Actually, that
Okay.
is not the one we are discussing here. One of the question where the feelings may vary qualitatively. Okay.
Okay.
So those questions are not very objective questions, having some objective answers. So that those are not the examples. Okay. Can we move?
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Satish, you have some points, suggestions? No?
No, sir. I think I should lower my hand. It was before.
Okay, okay. Now, this important concept, I request you all to please pay attention and do participate. I think this will be again repeated by Sumita, and I'll be just reviewing it from the validity, reliability of scales point of view. And whenever I'm using instrument, I'm also calling it as scales. Please remember, in social science, in management research, a questionnaire is also a scale or instrument which should be tested for its validity and reliability. I'll be quickly running through. Neha, can you please remind me part 11:25, because Sumita has to join. How more minutes I have?
3 minutes.
I have 3 minutes.
Yes, sir. It's 11:22.
Oh,
Yes,
I
sir,
think I can take it up in the next class.
Yes.
So sorry. This is very important. I think I should not hurriedly run through. This PPT, I'll share it, and you can please go through leisurely. I'll be covering in the next one. But I definitely would discuss on the next assignment. And please have a note. Next assignment, I expect all of you please participate. It's a written assignment, and there is no objective question. If you remember, session number 1, we had a discussion on what is done in research, how we start. Now, all of you have to think of a broad topic. Please identify a topic, whether it is what you have already identified, given to Sumita ma'am. I think Sally had formed one Excel sheet, but I would be happy if you can think of one more topic. Not an issue if you take it of the same topic, for me also okay. So the idea here is, can you think of newer topics? Why not say one more topic? If possible, if it is not a problem, you can think of a new topic or the topic what you have given to Sumita ma'am, that can also suffice. Now here, my expectation or assignment is, you have to define, you have to identify what you want to do. What you want to do should be defined by broad research issues. And if you can think of some research questions, that would be better. Now, you just also write some finer points, the context, the relevance of the topic, the way we have been discussing here, and very tentative methodology, how it can be done. So this, how it can be done is part of the methodology. I understand we have not covered much on the methodology, but you can just start thinking, okay? And please remember here, I'll also give a sample copy of the answer response of the last batch so that you can go through how they had submitted assignment number 2, your previous batch. So in the intro, this para is called introduction of your topic. There you have to write the context, relevance, and the background. And you can refer 1 or 2 articles also. As you will agree with me, unless you read few articles, you cannot get some idea about research issues, research questions. So I would expect you, once you decide, identify a broad topic, broad area, please select at least 2-3 articles, read the articles, and that will help you having your sub-objective and research questions, okay? And I expect all of you have to be a bit descriptive. You can write in 1-2 pages, and please submit by end of this month. I'll be sending you the sample copy, how your previous batch they have done it. You can go through it, but my request would be, don't get biased. First you think your topic, then you can refer the responses of your previous batch. If you go through that, then you may have some bias. So better you think of your own, then you can go through that. So the assignment of previous batch, what will be giving you just for your reference, it's not a best, and there could be some flaws. So those flaws we'll be discussing in the next class once you submit the assignment. The purpose is the ideas, whether it is scientifically reflected, described or not. This is the objective of this assignment. Okay. Any question on this assignment?